Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
Writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
Alright, this is Jessie. I am so happy to be back with you guys. How have you been? Alright. I have a lot to cover. Don't we always? Don't I say that every been so many changes in the past 7 to 10 days. Players without a scorecard, and harder and harder and harder to tell. Team. So, without further ado, we are going to get into the middle of all this. Alright, I've got a whole stack of articles in front of me. I'm going to start off with one that's more U.S. news than not, but it is very relevant. And then, we're going to move on from there. Alright. U.S. Border Control agents have captured 916 illegals from terror-linked countries in 2 years. Repeat. 916 illegals from terror-linked countries have been apprehended at the Mexican-American border since 2014. Let that sink in. This information came about because of a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act. The government has labeled migrants coming from these countries as special interest aliens and estimates that along with 916 that have been captured, up to 300 of these SIAs, or special interest aliens, may have entered the country through the Mexican border successfully. Yes, they're suggesting that there may be up to 360 illegals from terrorist countries that have made it through. Okay, I haven't had a chart, but it did not print properly. But we're just going to carry on. Countries considered to be terror-linked include all nations where ISIS has launched terror attacks or has run extensive recruitment operations to expand their ranks. Alright, here's a short list. It's not comprehensive. Afghanistan, Pakistan, Egypt, Bangladesh, Iraq, Iran, Jordan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Lebanon, Kuwait, Somalia, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, the Philippines, and Yemen. Yes, the terrorists are coming here. So that's pretty scary thought in my mind. To know that up to approximately, they're based on best estimates, that there are approximately 360 illegal aliens in this country from terrorist-type nations. According to U.S. border officials, the majority of illegal immigrants infiltrate the United States through the loosely guarded southern border. The southwest border extends approximately 2,000 miles, and only half of that is controlled and actively monitored by U.S. border agents. Coverage of the northern border is even more paltry. Reports state that only 400 border agents were stationed along the 4,000-mile northern border. The southern border is watched far more closely due to reports of human traffickers and cartel members assisting ISIS members in crossing the Mexican border. So, yeah, that's a lot. I'm sorry, but that is a lot. I mean, just think about that. There are approximately 360. And we saw what 19 did on 9/11. That's a lot. This number indicates there's a lot more than 19 roaming around. Alright, before I go any further, I am well aware, yes, well aware of the earthquakes in Italy Please don't think I've been neglecting it. Not in any way, shape, or form. But it's been everywhere. I try and bring you news that isn't being well covered. Isn't. That being said, I just tripped over this one. I don't even have an article on it. Got the audio, and then we're going to just... It's about a minute and a half. Let's take...
My name is Christopher Ledbetter. I'm from the United States. I came here from the U.S. Marines. This is my comrade, Juan from Spain. He's a Green Beret Special Forces soldier. We came here to help in the fight against Daesh. We see the horrible things that Daesh has done to the Yazidi and Christian people here. We know that Europe and America have given no aid thus far. We're here to change that. We want to see the good people win over the evil. We know that Daesh is the enemy of not just the Yazidis, but the entire world. I am sincerely asking the European nations and America to give us heavy weapons and armored vehicles directly to the Jesus Palestina as a kind. We have seen the willingness of all the soldiers here to fight against Daesh. In America and Europe, they're afraid of the small attacks. The larger attacks here, the genocide, it will spread throughout the whole. This is the only way to ensure freedom. We must fight. It's an honor for us to be here, and we're proud to fight alongside you until the evil that is Daesh is finished. Shaheed Namer.
Right, yes, you heard that correct. Fight against ISIS. Islamic State, aka ISIS or Daesh, take your pick. Absolutely nothing more than to get their hands on them. And I apologize, I just realized my microphone was out of place. No wonder I was having a hard time getting out to you guys. Alright, like I said, I think that there's definitely a lot of danger for them to be over there. No doubt. Do I think they're doing the right thing? Potentially, yes. Do I fear for their safety? Of course. If their true ethnicity is ever discovered, and they are captured, we will probably see one of the most, or hear about one of the most graphic executions ISIS can dream up. And let me tell you, they are barbaric. And boy, do I mean barbaric. Alright. Now, I've got another article here. Not sure if I have this one printed, but we are going to thumb through my stack and see what I got. Yes, I've actually begun trying to print stuff out for show prep so that I'm not just dependent on my browser. So, alright. Nope, don't seem to have it printed, so we're going to go off the browser. Alright, who is the Islamic State executing and why? And this was put out by the Huffington Post. For the most part, ISIS does tend to execute civilians that pose some kind of threat to the group's ability to monopolize the use of coercive force necessary to police a territory. Alright. That's not all they're executing, though. So yeah, they start with civilians. That's the top of their list. It is estimated between June 2014 and October 2015, casualties in, number of people that died by being executed versus number of people that die in suicide bombings. You ready for these? Take a close listen. 6,019 people were executed. 1,596 died in a suicide bombing. Now, reliable data on civilians killed in war zones is notoriously hard to come by. Some reports come through the United Nations. There's other reports that were factored into this. Captured combatant and civilian executions. 58% of their executions were captured combatants. 42% were civilian. For this particular scenario, captured civilian is someone that never took place in hostilities. The little old lady that lived down the lane. So, yeah. And of that, Yazidis top the list. Literally, 1,209. Compared with 381 government and political, 229 with tribal affiliations, and 191 that were called collaborators. Now, Yazidis are often killed for their religious practices. So, now technically, Christians are legally allowed to live in ISIS territory as long as they pay a special tax. However, anecdotal evidence says that the mass killings of Yazidis is more strongly correlated with ISIS's concern for security rather than proper legal administration. Yazidi militias have fought ISIS in many of the areas that these massacres take place. Yazidi men make up approximately 87% of these killings. The report doesn't state whether they're captured fighters or civilians. However, ISIS has allowed Yazidis to live after converting to Islam. So, who knows? We don't know. There is no one on the ground conducting a survey. Then we've got the government employees, politicians, and other professionals. They're likely killed to replace previous regimes and institutions for ISIS's own use. And family members of tribes fighting ISIS are next. Yes. Now, I've got to deviate for just a second here. Donald Trump at one point was calling for the execution of suspected terrorists. I'm sorry, candidate Trump. That makes us no better than those we fight against. Now, I will say I've not heard him spout this rhetoric in a long time. However, he did once spout it. And I was paraphrasing, not doing a direct quote. When compared to other insurgents, the patterns of ISIS executions are truly disturbing. Many insurgent groups, such as the RUF in Sierra Leone, kill civilians with seemingly no goal in mind, but ISIS seems to execute those with connection to their enemies. 133 civilians even received a trial, though unfair by the UN standards, before being executed. This, on top of evidence already presented, shows that ISIS is attempting to communicate to its public, quote, law-abiding citizens, law-abiding citizens, unquote, will not be executed. According to one of the most authoritative studies on how insurgents control territory, Stathis N. Kalavis, the author of The Logic of Violence and Civil War, when insurgents selectively kill associates of their enemies, the majority of the population believes they will not be killed if they abide by the rules of their occupier. However, when insurgents kill at random, everybody feels under threat. So that's kind of why they do it selectively. Alright. Explaining ISIS's success in Iraq requires more than just a survey of the patterns of execution. However, the ability to monopolize the use of the force in their state, quote-unquote state, to paraphrase an eminent sociologist Max Weber, goes a long way toward explaining why ISIS has been able to control territory. I mean, it's one of those things. ISIS has a wants to be the biggest dog in the front yard. They want no one stronger than they are. Alright, that is a quick rundown on ISIS. Now, let me see if I've got that other audio clip queued up. Let's see here. No, I don't have that one ready. Alright, we're going to cover a couple other articles because I just have a few minutes before bottom of the hour. Where has the time gone? Alright. We're going to talk about a truck bomb in Turkey. Turkey signals no quick end to Syria incursion as a truck bomb kills police. The suicide attack at police headquarters in a province bordering Syria and Iraq came 2 days after Turkey launched its first major military incursion into Syria, an operation meant to drive Islamic State out of the border area and stop Kurdish militias from seizing ground in their wake. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, meanwhile, tried on Friday at a meeting in Geneva to finalize an agreement on fighting Islamist militants in Syria. Such a deal could, in theory, pave the way for a political transition to end the 5-year conflict. Turkey, a NATO member and part of the U.S.-led coalition against Islamic State, has seen a deadly series of bombings this year blamed on radical Islamists, but it also fears Kurdish militias in Syria will seize a swath of border territory and embolden Kurdish insurgents on its own soil. All right, long story short here. Let's get out your scorecards. The Kurds. I'm gonna probably have to do a whole thing on the Kurds because they are a very unique people. All right, the Kurds are a Christian minority in the Middle East. Yes, I said Christian minority. Now, the Kurds are one of the few people that have zero issue with Christians. In fact, they're fine with them. They are Christian. They accept everyone of all religions, just like we do. Now, the Kurds would like their own country. Can you blame them? I can't. I can't blame anybody for wanting their own country. Especially after they were gassed by Saddam Hussein. Turkey considers them subhuman. There's the whole thing. Like I said, I see a serious slowdown coming on the Kurds in Kurdistan and why they want it. Now, there's a whole mess of politics as to why they're probably not going to get it, but we're not going to go into that. So, back to this bombing. PKK, which is a Kurdish group, claimed responsibility for the attack on the police headquarters according to a website affiliated to the group. Syria has condemned the Turkish operation, codenamed Euphrates Shield, as a breach of its sovereignty. Turkish special forces, tanks, and jets launched the incursion in support of Syrian rebels, most noticeably Turkmen and Arabs, who quickly took the border town of Jarablus from the Islamic State on Wednesday. An alliance of 23 Kurdish parties in Syria also condemned the Turkish operation on Friday. In a joint statement, they called for complete withdrawal of all Turkish forces from the country and accused Ankara of trying to occupy Syria under the pretense of fighting terrorism. Turkish military vehicles shuttled in and out of Syria on Friday. Yes, Friday, today. According to Reuters, witnesses said, including a construction machine that helped flatten the route for a tank. Controlled explosions rang out around the Karkamas border crossing as Turkish security forces removed mines and booby traps left by the Islamic State. Commander of Turkey's Second Army, responsible for borders with Syria and Iraq, visited Jalalos on Friday. Right. A Syrian rebel commander in charge of one of the main groups involved in the Turkish-backed operation told Reuters the forces now aim to move westward after taking Jalalos, an advance that could take weeks or months to complete. Turkey has shown little signs so far of a quick withdrawal. And that's according to U.S. Vice President Joe Biden, who met with Erdogan in Ankara on Wednesday, and said Turkey was ready to stay in Syria for as long as it takes to destroy Daesh, or the Islamic State. Turkey has long lobbied for a buffer zone in northern Syria, controlled by what it regards as moderate rebels, potentially in border-controlled territory held by Islamic State, stretching about 80 kilometers west of Jalalos. Sweeping out Islamic State would deprive the group of a smuggling route taken by foreign fighters joining its ranks that could also create a safe area for displaced civilians and help stem the flow of refugees. And this is according to Turkish officials. Alright, I do agree it's a safe place for refugees, please don't get me wrong. I will say many refugees have also fled to the Kurdish-controlled regions because they know they'll be safe. Erdogan, who wants to see Assad removed from power, remember your scorecards? Erdogan wants Assad out. We want Assad out. We are using a Turkish airbase to launch attacks against ISIS. Meanwhile, Russia wants Assad in. Iran doesn't care one way or the other, but they're in the middle of it. And they're helping Russia, so we're going to say they want Assad to stay. And now China has joined in the prop-up Assad campaign. Yeah. Like I said, you gotta have the scorecard around here and don't fill it in the pen. Turkey views the PKK listed as a terrorist organization by Turkey, the United States, and the European Union. It's closely linked to the Syrian Kurdish YPG militia. However, Washington has backed the YPG. Alright, like I said, you get the YPG on our side, but Turkey thinks they're terrorists. You got us and the Kurds fighting ISIS. Turkey wants to fight ISIS, but they also want to fight the Kurds. You've got U.S. and Turkey saying Assad out. You've got Iran, China, and Russia saying Assad in. Is that enough for ever-changing politics for you in the Middle East? Alright, it is bottom of the hour. My oh my, where is the time gone? We are going to go to a commercial break, and I will see you back on the other side.
You can lay it down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play it dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country needing you right now.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
Let down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country needing you right now, but I don't wanna.
All right. Thank you for hanging in with me over that commercial break. All right. I just found out as I was going to the commercial that my audio had gotten just a little hinky towards the end. All right. Now, I do have some audio clips for you, and I got them straightened out while we were at commercial break. There's been a big development in Syria that I haven't had time to talk about. Now, it just happened today. But I know we've been stuck on Syria, but they're kind of the biggest dog in the fight today. All right. Some people actually managed to leave a blockaded, controlled, besieged area. Amazing. Let's take a listen to the audio, and then we will discuss it.
Well, Daraya, Robin, is really a microcosm of the tragedy of the Syrian uprising. It was there in 2011 when there were some of the first protests against the regime. Peaceful protests. It quickly descended into an armed conflict, and from November of 2012, the city, which had hundreds of thousands of people, was put under siege. At this point, there are only about 7,000 to 8,000 civilians left inside. Now, according to the agreement worked out between the rebels and the Syrian government, somewhere between 400 to 700 of the fighters will go with their families, provided safe passage on buses to Idlib in northwestern Syria. The rest, the other civilians, 6,000 or 7,000, will be taken to centers where they will be received in government-held areas. Now, this is a huge symbolic victory for the government in Damascus, which, as I said, has been besieging, bombarding brutally this suburb of Damascus. It's also significant because what this means is this will basically free up a lot of the Syrian army that's been stationed around Daraya. Perhaps they will be able to move northward to Aleppo, which is expected to be the next decisive battle in this seemingly endless bloodbath.
All right, so, yes, there was finally some people were allowed to leave some of the besieged areas. Finally. But it's not all coming up roses. And the surrender ended one of the longest sieges of the Syrian war and marked the latest victory in Assad's regime's surrender or starve military campaign. Now, there was something that happened in Bosnia after a 3-year siege where there was a similar kind of starve or surrender thing that happened. They executed about 8,000 Muslim men and boys. Serbs captured the Bosnian enclave after about a 3-year siege and promptly executed 8,000 Muslim men and boys. There was no international supervision nor support for the operation, and the armed Shabiha, the regime's ill-trained militias, boarded each bus as it left the devastated city. Live shots were broadcast by a Beirut TV channel, showed buses crawling through streets of cheering Shabiha, but no interviews with evacuees. Relatives said townspeople felt abandoned by the world, despondent to be leaving their homes, and deeply fearful as they proceed to an unknown fate. Alright, we're not done. Daraya, once home to more than 200,000, has been under siege since, are you ready for this one? November 2012. It has received, ready for how much humanitarian aid it's gotten? 1 shipment of food aid and 1 shipment of medical supplies, and that was last June. After a fierce regime offensive this summer that seized the farmlands and destroyed their sole field hospital 1 week ago, they had run out of food, water, ammunition, and medical care. Residents say they had no choice but to surrender. Alright. While the initial evacuation appeared to go without incident, the journey to rebel-held Idlib province or camps for the internally displaced was fraught with risk. State news media has said some 400 fighters and family left for Idlib province and 600 civilians went to Kadaseh and Harajal, 2 government-controlled enclaves in western Ghouta where they would join thousands of internally displaced. There was no written agreement spelling out the details of the exodus. An enormous discrepancy in numbers, with city officials saying there were more than 8,000 civilians, and Syrian government agencies using the number 4,000. Could this be a 4,000-person massacre? It might be. We find the agreement unsettling, says Elise Baker, research coordinator at Physicians for Human Rights, a U.S.-based group. She expressed fear that Daraya residents would be detained arbitrarily, which had occurred repeatedly following negotiated ceasefires with other Syrian towns. She said residents are already the victims of countless war crimes and should have the choice of staying in their homes. This is potentially horrifying. Calling this situation in Daraya extremely grave, the UN Special Envoy Stefan de Mistura said that the UN had neither been consulted nor involved in the negotiations, and he only learned of the agreement Thursday evening. He appealed to Russia and the United States to ensure that the implementation of the agreement and its aftermath is in compliance with international law. Only time will tell. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry was meeting his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Geneva Friday to discuss Syria, but there was no sign they'd intended to take ownership of a situation beyond their control. It took de Mistura 19 hours to issue a statement.
If you don't already know what's inside a pint of Ben & Jerry's cores,
what is
spoiler
playing?
alert, each pint has a soft, gooey core of deliciousness. Anissa, do your thing.
Sorry about that. I have no idea what audio just jumped in on my show. I'm going to guess it was something auto-playing on some tab I had open. Sounded like it. Sorry to bombard you with an unexpected commercial for ice cream. Although I could use a pint of ice cream right now. Alright. City defense organizers counted 54 barrel bombs that they say was napalm, which is a flammable liquid that starts fires that cannot be doused with water. Napalm is a weapon banned under international treaty. It was used somewhat in Vietnam and maybe in Korea, but it has been banned. Alright. Syria. What a hot spot. You add Syria, Iran, Russia, and China. For all those countries on one side. Then you put the U.S., its coalition, and Turkey on another. And then you sprinkle in our other coalition partners. Alright. Like I said, you need a scorecard to tell the players apart. Now, what would a show be without North Korea? Now let's see if I can hit the right audio here. I've got 2 more audio clips. I'm not sure which one I have queued up.
To international news now, where it seems there's increasing cooperation over Syria. It follows Iran allowing
Russia
we're
going to listen to this.
Airbase, and now China saying it will offer military help to the Syrian government. Here's RT's Gayan Chichikan with more.
Closer military ties with Syria. A senior Chinese military official just visited Damascus, where he met with the Syrian defense minister. According to the agency, the Chinese and Syrian officials also talked about the possibility for China to provide military training and humanitarian aid to Syria. This talk about the possibility of China providing military training to Syrian government forces marks a change in China's more detached approach to the war in Syria. China had previously praised Russia's role there, but it may now provide more specific support to the fight against terrorists. The Chinese news agency also reported that while in Damascus, the Chinese military official also met with the Russian general. So you have a potential alliance forming not only with China, but also with Iran. This weekend, Russian jets delivered their first airstrikes on terrorist targets in Syria operating from an Iranian airbase. The bombers took off from Hamadan airfield to attack ISIL and al-Nusra facilities in Aleppo, Deir ez-Zor, and Idlib provinces. The Russian Defense Ministry said the strikes had eliminated 5 major terrorist weapons depots and training compounds in the area. So you have a strategic cooperation between Russia and Iran in Syria, and we may now add China to that alliance. The difference between this alliance and the U.S.-led anti-ISIL coalition would be that to go after terrorists, Russia, Iran, and China are supporting the Syrian army, while the U.S.-led coalition is supporting rebel forces in Syria. The problem is those rebel forces sometimes join forces with terrorists, and it becomes difficult to distinguish them from terrorists.
All right, that was from a Russian television news source that is an English-speaking channel. Now, she does have a point that sometimes you can't tell the rebels from the terrorists. I agree with her on that point. China joining in on this adds a whole new funky piece of puzzle to this, funky twist to this pie. Quite a funky twist, thank you very much. Alright. Got one more audio clip. Trying to remember which one it is. It's not properly labeled, but whatever one it is, we're going to roll with it.
North Korea's leader says the U.S. mainland and its, quote, operational theater in the Pacific are now within striking range. Kim Jong-un's comments quoted on state media come after Wednesday's test firing of a submarine-based ballistic missile. It flew much further than any previous test missile before. And these pictures are set to show Mr. Kim celebrating after the launch. You can see a big smile on his face there. And photos are quite interesting as well, especially with these big embraces the leader is giving. Let's give more now on all of this from our Will Ripley in Seoul, South Korea. Hi there, Will.
Hey, Amra, those propaganda photos out of North Korea really are remarkable because they reveal a side of the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un we don't normally see, as he was celebrating with his scientists, projecting so much confidence that he feels he has finally perfected this missile technology capable of delivering a nuclear warhead to his enemies, including the United States. Rising from the waters off the eastern Korean peninsula, an ominous new threat from North Korea, the successful test firing of submarine-launched ballistic missile Pukguksong, meaning Polaris, the North Star. A weapon North Korean leader Kim Jong-un says puts the U.S. and its allies within striking range of a nuclear attack. A triumphant announcement on the North Korean news. State propaganda images claim to show a perfect launch. Before dawn Wednesday, anxiety turns to exhilaration. Kim Jong-un and his officers smiling, laughing as they track the missile some 500 kilometers, more than 300 miles, further than any previous attempt.
The testing and the phase of the development is very rapid.
A launch attempt just last month failed. A missile fired 4 months ago in April traveled just 30 kilometers, around 18 miles. Analysts believe Wednesday's missile traveled 16 times further, meaning it can strike anywhere in South Korea, home to 50 million people and some 25,000 American troops. The latest launch as U.S. and South Korean forces engage in annual military exercises, similar to these in the spring. Pyongyang views the annual drills as a direct provocation. Troy University professor Daniel Pinkston says war games are vital to keep the peace.
Looking at North Korea's capabilities, their development programs for weapons of mass destruction and their delivery systems, the shrill rhetoric that comes out of Pyongyang, their objectives are very clear.
North Korean weapons development continues at a breakneck pace, despite nearly universal condemnation and unprecedented international sanctions.
They will allocate resources from other areas and devote it to the missile and nuclear programs.
Kim Jong-un called Wednesday's before dawn launch the greatest success and victory. Feeling the intense pressure to succeed, one officer appears overcome with tears of joy, or perhaps relief. I was in North Korea back in May for the Workers' Party Congress and chatting with a government official there who told me they would rather go hungry than give up their nuclear and missile program. So it just goes to show you the mindset. Certainly in Pyongyang, Amra, North Korea undeterred by the international condemnation and some of the harshest sanctions ever.
And it seems like these repeated tests are helping advance their technology there in North Korea. Will Ripley, we thank you for that report live.
All right, that was audio from CNN. Thank you, CNN. All right. Now, North Korea's missile. I've done some other reading on it. The missile traveled 500 kilometers. That's approximately 350 miles, give or take a little bit. I didn't do the computations myself. The South Korean government has stated that if that missile had been fired at a different angle, it could have traveled 1,000 kilometers. That's scary. That is flat out scary. The missile did penetrate Japanese airspace. I don't like that. I have a feeling Japan doesn't like it either. We have quite the number of military still based in Japan. And as far as war games go, to slightly change topics here, we aren't the only one conducting military readiness drills. Russia begins military readiness drills near Ukraine amid Crimea tensions. Amid political tensions between Russia and Ukraine, Moscow is making certain its armed forces are ready to fight if necessary. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday ordered his military to conduct practice drills on the country's western edge near Ukraine, the embattled Crimea Peninsula, to test troops' readiness. The drills were announced by the defense minister. So, it's the full procedure of preparation of the armed forces for protection of natural interests. It's basically so they say they can protect their national interests if need be. And I'm sorry, they walked into Crimea and basically seized sovereign territory from another country. Now, they didn't just walk in. They slipped people in that weren't wearing uniforms and said, oh, nope, nope, nope. We're not there. The world knew they were. All right, I know I'm almost out of time. All right, I'm going to start with this one, because if I don't get to the other one, I'm not going to worry about it. The United States has had some record-keeping lapses in arms sent to Iraq and Afghanistan. The Pentagon has awarded up to $40 billion worth of small arms and ammunition contracts as part of an effort to arm Iraqi and Afghan security forces, but can only account for a fraction of battle rifles, sniper rifles, machine guns, and pistols it purchased. And this is according to an independent report that I don't think is named. The London-based charity Action on Armed Violence said it spent almost a year analyzing 412 small arms-related contracts issued by the Defense Department. Deals that if fulfilled are potentially worth $40.1 billion. More than half the total value, $24.6 billion across 183 contracts, is for ammunition and upgrades to production facilities, according to the report. For example, the single largest contract was for ammo and modernizing. The contractor operated a Lake City Army ammunition plant in Missouri, a deal potentially valued at $8.5 billion alone. Yes, that was $8.5 billion. The smallest piece of the total value, $4.2 billion across 129 contracts, is for actual guns, namely small arms with calibers up to 30 millimeter. Now, for those of you that don't speak gun, 30 millimeter isn't huge. All right, of the total value, the Federal Procurement Database System, or FPDS, shows that about $20 billion was spent by September 2015. That works out to $13 billion on ammunition and upgrades to ammunition factories, $4 billion on small arms attachments, and $3 billion on small arms. The charity claims that the U.S. government gave 1.5 million guns to Iraq and Afghanistan as part of $2.2 billion worth of small arms-related contracts, but only 3% of these weapons purchases were detailed on the daily DoD contract publications. Wait a minute. DoD, you've lost 97% of something? You guys can keep track of every piece of gear you've ever issued to a soldier, but you can't keep track of money you're spending on contracts and where it's going and what it's being spent on? A team of researchers at the group spent almost a year analyzing every contract published by the Pentagon between September 11, 2001 and September 10, 2015. We did not anticipate finding so much money having been spent by the Department of Defense on small arms ammunition and attachments. We're not talking aircraft carriers here. $40 billion is a huge amount of issued contracts just for guns, attachments, and ammo, even over 14 years. More importantly, our findings raise concern about DoD's own transparency and accountability when it comes to issuing contracts. It highlights the fact that significant numbers of small arms, for instance, are sent to foreign governments, but never publicly recorded by the DoD. We know by looking at other U.S. government records that at least 1,452,910 small arms have been sent to Iraq and Afghanistan in the last 14 years. That's a lot of small arms. The DoD contract database appears to list as little as 3% of these. We also know the U.S. government has acknowledged they don't know where many of these weapons are now. Mark Wright, a spokesman at the Pentagon, didn't dispute the thrust of the report. After the U.S. deployed troops to Afghanistan in 2001 and to Iraq in 2003, officials moved quickly to field arms to locally allied forces, he said. For context, it is important to note the circumstances surrounding initial efforts to provide stability to Iraq and Afghanistan during the early years of the wars. The new governments of those nations started their existence already locked in a brutal fight with terrorists, former regime personnel, and other hostile elements. Speed was essential in getting those nations' security forces armed, equipped, and trained. That's the DoD's point of view. I'm sorry, DoD, you keep track of everything else. You need to do a better job keeping track of the bullets and guns you're giving away. You know you guys that listen regularly, you know I'm a huge supporter of the military, but I will call them out when I see something egregious. The Defense Department figures there's only about 48% of the total small arms supplied by the U.S. government found in an open-source government reports. Such shortfalls highlight the lack of accountability, transparency, and joined-up data that exists at the very heart of the government's weapon procurement and distribution systems. Wright acknowledged the number provided to the group didn't take into account other sources of small arms. He said the Pentagon's figure of some 730,000 weapons provided through Defense Security Cooperation Agency does not include approximately 355 non-FMS acquired weapons, weaponry that Multinational Security Transition Command Iraq reported in the GAO report. DoD cannot ensure, the Department of Defense cannot ensure that U.S.-funded equipment has reached Iraqi security forces from July 2007. It's very important to note that today the Department does track the origin, shipping, and in-country distribution of all weapons. DoD representatives in Afghanistan, Iraq inventory each weapon as it arrives in country and record the distribution of the weapon to the foreign partner nation. So, they had screwed up. They have fixed it. But guys. Well, right on my heels is America Off the Rails with Rick Robinson. So, on that note, I'm out of here!